Hey, ladies, it is Coach Jamila here. For those of you that are new to the group, you probably learned about it by watching my YouTube videos or you found me here on Facebook. But I just wanted to go live tonight and actually talk to you on the topic of daddy issues and relationships when he was emotionally unavailable. Now, this is going to be the first of a 3-part series of videos that I'm going to do on this topic of daddy issues. I actually am a transformation life coach, and one of the groups of women that I work with are those that have been through an unwanted divorce. And ladies who choose to work with me one-on-one can expect to get over their daddy issues, can expect to rebuild their self-esteem, regain their confidence and power after a divorce, and get crystal clear on not only what they want, but what they need from a new relationship. Because that's the whole crux of what I do, is helping women prepare to succeed in a new relationship. So really, for those that have been through a divorce, but still believe in marriage and do want to be happy, with someone else more compatible, better suited, and have that future that they were looking forward to with their ex, but it didn't work out for a variety of reasons. And one of those reasons we're going to talk about tonight. And like I said, this is the first of a 3-part series. So, when your father was emotionally unavailable. So what do I mean by that? So, how did you see him treat your mother? So if your parents we're married and together, when I say emotionally unavailable, that means you may have seen your father, he went to work every day, but he never sat down and really talked to you one-on-one, got your thoughts, your feelings on things. You never saw him have that type of an interaction with your mother. In fact, you may have even witnessed her constantly maybe taking care of him, being the martyr of the family, taking care of him, the kids, whatever, but never really focusing on herself at all. And him just really not tending to the emotional needs of the family. He's just absent. He may have even been abusive, verbally, emotionally, and you may have even witnessed him treating your mother, in that fashion. Now, when you saw that as a little kid, as a little girl, when you saw your father treat your mother that way, and if she was a woman who stayed, like, your parents may still be together to this day, if you watched her stay in that relationship to where he was emotionally unavailable, to where perhaps he was even abusive, then what you learned was that there is no threshold, that there is no bar that exists that will cause you to leave. You never saw her do it. And so you were taught on a subconscious level, you stay and you stay and you stay and you stay and you put up and you put up and you put up and you put up and you compromise and you compromise and you compromise and you compromise. And that's what you were taught. Now, on a conscious level, you'll say, I don't want that. I don't want a man like my father. I want this, that, and the other thing. But that's what you were taught. And here's what you need to understand is that the mind, and I'll be reiterating this throughout the series of videos that I'm going to be doing, but the mind is attracted to what is familiar, not what's good for it. So if that's how you grew up, that's what you're drawn to, because that's actually what's normal to you. Like I said, on a conscious level, that's not what you want, but subconsciously, that's what you're drawn to. That's what you're attracted to. And so when you came out of that situation, some of the beliefs that you internalized, that you said to yourself in watching your father treat your mother this way, and then your father treating you that way, not tending to your emotional needs, not making you feel valuable, not making you feel important, then what you say to yourself as a little girl is just that. I'm not important. I'm not valuable. You may even say, I'm worthless. I had a client, I hate myself. You begin to just internalize all these negative things about yourself, because what do children do when bad things happen? They blame themselves. And so what did you do? Well, if my father's ignoring me, if he never has time for me, if he doesn't talk to me, if he doesn't think I'm special, then there must be something wrong with who? With me. And that's how you left your childhood and went out into the world and started getting into relationships with men. And like I said again, On that conscious level, you're like, I don't want that. But on your subconscious level, those beliefs of not feeling special, not feeling important, all of that, that's what you went out into the world with. And that is what was magnetized. And that is what you're putting out and what you're drawing to you. Not what you're thinking. It's here. It's all that subconscious stuff that you're not aware of. So you go, why do I keep ending up in relationships with men like this? Because this is what you really think and feel and believe about yourself. And so when people make jokes about daddy issues, it's not funny because it's real. It's true. There is a correlation. I did a post in this group, now it's been a few weeks, maybe a month ago, and on daddy issues and putting it out there and asking, and it was just tons of comments. And the question was, do you see any parallels between your marriage and your father or your parents' relationship? And it's like, yeah, you're reliving it. You're playing out. You live what you learn, okay? And so how does this affect your relationships with men? Now, I'm going to share some things with you. And you tell me if any of these, resonate with you or sound familiar. So you go out into the world, again, you don't feel important, you don't feel valuable, you don't feel special. You also have been conditioned by watching your mother play martyr to your father's needs and wants and him not tending to hers emotionally, because women are emotional creatures and our emotions are important, okay? By watching that, you also said to yourself, my feelings don't matter. As long as he's happy, as long as everybody else is happy, then I'm okay. Or I'm just, glad, I've got a man or whatever. And so that's kind of going to lead into what I'm saying is how this has affected, shown up in your relationships, as you may have found yourself being needy or needing constant reassurance from your mate that he is attracted to you, that he does like you, that you are important, constantly seeking attention, trying to get his attention because you feel neglected emotionally and you're looking for that validation. You may even find yourself chasing men or pursuing relationships with men that have shown you very little or no interest, okay? And the fact is, the reason why is because you're looking for that love, that attention, and that affection that you needed from your father. You're looking for it in these relationships with men. And so what it can do is cause you to become vulnerable to predatory men. And when I say predatory, there are certain men who are very good at manipulating women, but they tend to only focus and hone on a particular type of woman, okay? And this is typically a woman who is stepping out there with these unknown daddy issues, who's struggling with that self-esteem, who is really looking for somebody to make her feel special and important. And they may do all that stuff up front, but then they all of a sudden change things up. And then you're in this situation to where you're constantly begging for attention. You're texting, you're calling, you're doing the chasing and the pursuing. And feeling all the while like, what changed? What happened? What's wrong with me? Why has the relationship become this? Because the truth of the matter is, that's who he always was. He was never an attentive man. He was never a man who was interested in genuinely in your feelings. He did what he needed to do to get with you, okay? And then when life kicked in, when the pressure kicked in, when it hit the fan, whatever, he revealed who he really was. And that is that he's really more concerned about himself and what you do for him, and not so much how he can be there for you and care for you emotionally. And so the other type of men that you can attract and that you become vulnerable to when you struggle with this issue of having grown up with a father who is emotionally unavailable is you can also become vulnerable to abusers. Now, predatory men and abusers can be one and the same, of course. And you may find that in that type of a relationship, whether it's emotional, physical, mental, whatever, you may have found yourself becoming a doormat, an emotional doormat, to where you may have complained, may have fought back, but it never really occurred to you to leave or end the relationship, because what exactly would constitute a deal-breaking behavior? Because you have already experienced those deal-breaking behaviors And yet you compromised, you made excuses, and you stayed and you stayed and you stayed and you stayed and you suffered for that decision. Now, I can speak to that because I stayed married to someone for for almost a decade and a half, who, you know, yeah, those deal breakers occurred, and nothing in me said it's time to bring this to an end. This isn't going to change. He's actually the one that ended up ending things, be it, the nerve, right? You're the one on the wrong and you end it. But, and it worked out to my benefit, of course, long term. And not even long term. It worked out in my benefit. Period. It was the best thing that happened to me. But what it revealed to me was, again, that I was living what I had learned, and I didn't have a threshold for what was acceptable and what was unacceptable, and at what point I would go. Okay. So when you have a father who was emotionally unavailable, and that's how you grew up watching that dynamic and that relationship in your parents, really think carefully about your marriage that ended. Or a lot of times a woman will get divorced and get into another relationship, and that relationship ends, and it's almost worse heartbreak than the divorce. And really examine that relationship now, since it's your most recent one, and see, are there parallels? Did you get involved in this relationship simply because you thought he was better than your ex, but then he turned out to have some similar qualities and characteristics, and really the underlying crux being he's still not meeting my needs? Because the truth is, I'm not really in touch with what I need until I'm in a relationship and begging and scratching and trying to get it. Okay? So when your father is emotionally unavailable, that's what's familiar to you. That's the kind of man you tend to attract. And there's always exceptions. It's not absolute, but more often than not, this is what happens. And so the question really is, what can you do to overcome that? And that's actually, I'm going to cover that in the third video of this 3-part series, because in the next video, I'm going to talk about, same thing, daddy issues and relationships, but when your father was not around at all, like he completely abandoned you. Because it's similar, of course, to if he was emotionally unavailable, but it's a lot even more stuff, that you say to yourself when he just wasn't there at all. Maybe he didn't even acknowledge your existence. Okay. So I hope this video was helpful. If anything I said resonated with you, please comment below. Let me know. Again, this is really just to shine a light on some of this thinking, some of these patterns, some of these issues that you may have developed and are unaware of, and what the connection is. Because once you shine a light on it, then you can address it, then you can fix it. And like I said, we're going to talk about that in part 3 of this series. So stay tuned for the next video. And then, like I said, the last one, we'll talk about how we can really work on healing this issue that we have from our relationship with our father, what we grew up with, what we lived, what we learned. And then how do we turn that around so we don't keep repeating it, right? Nobody wants to keep repeating a pattern that's not working for them. So anyway, want to thank you for watching. Like I said, comment below. Let me know your thoughts. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. All right. Take care.